Abduction, by definition, makes most people cringe. The thought of taking someone and never hearing from that same loved one tears families apart. Now imagine child abduction, a much worse phenomenon that occurs quite frequently, unfortunately, usually by their own parents. Parental child abduction occurs when parents fight over custody and decide to take matters into their own hands. The reality of this is parents take their child away from each other in order to keep custody. In many cases, the abduction tends to cross borders in order to really lose all contact and chance at family law battles. In the end, this causes international family law issues. This problem has and continues to occur. This issue needs remedy in order to guarantee the best interest and safety of the child. In order to deal with such cases, the international community of nations came up with the Hague Convention, where countries sign regulations and procedures to follow when there is a child abduction that crosses international borders. This convention sets out that the child be returned to his or her habitual life in the country it was taken from. This being said, not all countries sign the treaty convention, which brings about the issue of how to proceed accordingly when dealing with an abduction taken to one of these countries. In a recent case, a mother and father with a young boy by the name of Jad, whom got divorced and fought for custody, began an unusual and new addition to the child abduction when they both abducted the child internationally. The father took the boy on vacation to Lebanon, where the father is from, and promised their return on September 1st. However, when the day came, they both were unaccounted for. The mother then took it upon herself to visit Lebanon and abduct the child and bring her back to Canada. Under Canadian law, the father was warranted for arrest. Nevertheless, since Lebanon never signed the convention, the mother was also warranted for arrest in Lebanon. This case explains the main issues that come with parental abduction. The child is taken from his or her culture, natural habitat if you must, and is forced into a new one, losing heritage and culture, among other things such as language potentially. The point of the matter is, abducting the child does more harm than good in the end, and is a selfish way to deal with custody and family law matters. This case also illustrates the increasing issue with parental abduction with non-signatories of the Hague Convention because it composes the parent whom the child was taken from to take matters into their own hand and incriminate themselves in the process. In order to deal with this conflict, Canada should issue a hearing with the family courts of the non-signatory country and eventually decide on the primary reason for the conflict, who was at fault to begin with, and to return or leave the child in the best and most reasonable country, that being where his or her interest is priority. In this case, for instance, the courts and mediators should portray the father as the initial problem and the mother to be held liable for her actions as well within a reasonable and logical manner. Family law continues to increase in new ways to make it harder to resolve, which means several new policies and laws to be developed and heard in order to preserve the most important aspect of the families, the children, and their rights even before they grow up and mature enough to understand them.
Created using Powtoon.